Okay, so we're now at a point now where we need to block out the rest of the scene so we can project the image from the camera directly onto the simple geometry to give the illusion of a 3D scene from a 2D photograph. Now we've already got one reference point, which is North Tower, so this is the best place to start with another primitive. So if we press Control D to duplicate, and then move the pivot point to this far corner by holding down D, V, and moving it, and then snapping it to the near corner with V, holding down V, and put W for move. So snap this to the far near corner, and then snap it to the back corner. And if we move it up directly in that position, so it aligns with the top of the building, we can see that this building then goes behind North Tower. So if we move it behind, we can use this point with the scale tool to just fill in the rest of the scene by extruding that out. Now we can see that in the stairwell section, the actual geometry kind of protrudes forwards and goes back in again. So just using the tools you're familiar with, such as Insert Edge Loop, just select an edge, Mesh Tool, Insert Edge Loop, drop an edge loop down there to keep this edge tidy, add one there, and one towards the edge to hold that edge tight. Switch back to face, select the middle one, press W for move, and we just kind of align it with the photograph. If we've actually put the edge loops in a bit kind of wrong place, we can just still kind of move it one way or the other to align it a bit better. So just back to film gate. If we show this is shaded now, we can see that it actually, some areas are smooth, so to avoid any issues, just harden edge, and now it looks more like the kind of geometry it should be. The next section you want to do is this area on top of the North Tower. So if again we use this as the basis, press Control D to duplicate, and in this instance we know that that face is parallel with this one. It's just slightly pushed back. So select W, move it back in that direction, move it up so it aligns with the top, and we want to try and gauge the kind of where this line would be if the curve wasn't there. So I think this needs to go back in this direction, which then means it needs to kind of go up a little bit higher and maybe a bit further that way. So from there, what we can do is again scale the asset to make sure it matches the image and bring it in this way. Because the scale tool's kind of off scene, just switch back to the two views, and we can scale it down in this view to make it a little bit shorter, because we don't need as much of this one. Now before we put the curve on this corner, it's worth duplicating this shape and making this small piece of machinery or whatever it is on the top of the North Tower. So again, just duplicate this asset, Control D, go to W to move the pivot point, because this time we want to snap it directly to this bottom corner, so then we can snap the object to the top corner. So if you hold down D and snap it to the bottom corner, and then V to snap it to the top area, we can now see in this view it's completely aligned as it should be. They're flush with each other. From here, if we pull the object out so it matches the corner, so it looks like it's slightly sticking over like it does in the photograph, and then use the scale tool to scale it in to match the photograph, and then scale it down. So if I go to full view of this, you can see it kind of matches pretty well, and also in this view it looks like it's in the same kind of position. May have brought this face up a little bit too high because there's a gap. Just make sure there's no issues when we try to do an animation, that we just scale that back down to make sure it sticks to the building, and that should be completely fine. So I'll just do one more section, or one more area. So we try to align this top of the SU. So again, select the original North Tower asset, duplicate, so we've got a copy, so Control D. This time we want to try and align it with this corner, so bring it down, bring it forward, bring it down, and look at it from this position, because we know this one is straight, but this kind of slopes away at a different angle. Because we've already got the pivot point where we need it, we can scale the object in. Bring it back this way. Scale it up. Now before we make too many changes to this to align to the shape, it's probably worth duplicating this shape to create the base of the building, because we know that certain areas are flush and it's all it really is indented in the Z-axis. So to begin with, again, just duplicate this asset, Control D. Bring the pivot point to this bottom corner. Actually, no, we can just basically snap this straight down to that corner so it's flush. We need to move it in until this kind of corner pretty much matches. Like this. And if we look at it in shaded, we can see that's okay. Back to wireframe, select the top version, back to the tools used before, which was edge loop. So mesh tools, insert edge loop, put that in about there, select face, move this down to align with the image. Because we've already put a slice through this one, it's probably worth moving the pivot back to this top corner so we can rotate this entire top face and match it better. So just go to Move, Control D, move this to the top corner. Make sure we got the top faces selected. Go back to here, press rotate. Actually, with them two selected, what we need to do is move the pivot point to the corner, press rotate, and that should then rotate both of them evenly and to match the picture. So jump into shaded view. We now know that this has to come forward, even though the way the photograph's taken, we probably wouldn't see it anyway with the camera move we're going to do. But just to make sure it's a bit more consistent, so I can see object, select it, move the pivot to the back corner, and then just snap it forward. Snap the face, snap these verts at the back. Sometimes easier in this view. Just snap those to the edge, so then we know it's a completely consistent example. It might even be worth just tweaking these faces so there's not too much Z fighting because the tolerance is so small. So put that in a little bit. And there's some of the university match, camera matched. So we'll just get the bottom face, make sure this goes further down, it should do, because it will be hidden by the grass version eventually. And there's part of the scene created in perspective. So I'll continue with this now and block out the rest of the scene, and see you in the next video where I'll be creating a shader to project the photograph directly onto the models.